Hello, this is Mitchell James and this is Mitchell J. Eckhart, inspiring and motivating you through various artworks of mine in the areas of your gifts and your natural abilities. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a crucial topic that is very important for every human on earth, and that is the topic of introspection. And why is it important in the day-to-day releasing and the maximizing of our gifts, our potentials, our abilities, and even our talents. So what I have here is an art painting, an oil painting which I did in the year 2020 during the lockdown and the quarantine period. I titled this Moment of Introspection. We must understand that in such an ever-changing world, there is something that is deeply eating every one of us up, and it is affecting the release of our abilities and our potentials. It is affecting how we come to attain our purpose here on earth. So what is introspection? Introspection is an act of looking inward. It has to do with trying to understand the thoughts that are going on within you. Another word for it is self-examination, self-awareness, self-contemplation. Now, it is crucial that in an ever-changing world like this, there is something that is constantly eating deep into the capacity of our release of our potentials every day. Now, the thoughts of our mind are so strong that they affect the purpose of our life. They affect the kind of exhibition of who we truly are. Most people have found themselves in institutions, in jobs, and different places of works because they had to yield to the thoughts of their mind. They had to give in to the negative thoughts that their mind gave to them. And probably because they felt that what they want to do will never work out. Parastatals and institutions have with them a lot of entrepreneurs who were supposed to bring forth their gift into the world. So why is it important that in such a generation we must understand how the power of introspection could make us bring about who we truly are, who we are truly going to be? One of the questions that is central to introspection is, who am I? It is trying to understand who you are in the universe. But also, one of the questions that introspection also deals with is the question of the why. Why am I thinking this? Why am I doing this? Why am I here? Now, the why question is important because you want to understand what is the reason why you're doing something. Now, if you allow your mind to produce thoughts, like psychologists say that the mind produces negative thoughts 87% of the time in a day. That is enormous. And if you really look at how it affects a lot of us, you see it in the way people live in depression. In fact, a lot of medical professionals have also revealed that most of those who come to the clinic and to the hospitals are actually not people who are actually sick in a sense. They are actually people who, because of the mental state of their mind, have allowed themselves to be engaged in one sickness or the other. In a sense, the negative thoughts that the mind produce fear, produce depression, anxiety, mental disorder, and because of that, a lot of people are denied of the release of their gifts into the world. Now, there could be other factors that affect this, but what we are concerned about is how our thoughts affect the release of our gift. So we must understand that because the mind is not a part of the body, it's not an organ in the body where you could locate, through process of surgery you could find that part. The mind continues to do something constantly, and that is, it brings thoughts. And what does it do? It brings thoughts from the past or the future. Now you may have an activity that you're supposed to do, or probably something you were supposed to take on, and it has to do with your goal, it has to do with your purpose, probably a practice, probably a speech, something you're supposed to write, but because the mind is there to produce thoughts, most of the thoughts it produces are the type that discourage you from doing what you're supposed to do. Probably you were supposed to start training yourself on a skill, in an area of a skill that you love doing. But because you have yielded to the negative thoughts that the mind gave to you, probably something someone said to you in the past, or probably an experience you had in the past, the mind projects that experience and make it seem like it is impossible. So we have a lot of people in the world today actually doing things that they do not love and are unfulfilled. Why? Because they've allowed the power of the thoughts of the mind to overwhelm and overcome them. Now, there is an ancient text which a lot of us may be familiar with and are more inclined to the wisdom in it. And it said, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Now, James Allen in his book, As a Man Thinketh, also revealed that the heart is not actually the place where you actually think. Now, of course, you know the heart is the organ of the body that has to do with the pumping of the blood. So in a sense, we could not, it's a colloquial English to say the heart is where you think. But of course, we understand in the modern time that the mind is actually where we think. So if the mind is the place for thoughts, then it definitely means that the amount of thoughts that the mind produces to you can bring about an habit, a behavior, an attitude, and eventually produce a psychological effect. But the truth is that what the mind does is just to do its own activity. What it does is not identical to we or to our person. A lot of us have mistaken the thoughts of our mind to be that it is you. And now we must understand that most of the things that the mind produces are not necessarily true. And so in such a busy world, in such a distracting world, we need to understand that there are times when the mind needs a level of quietness. So when you look at this artwork, I presented a man who is in a solitude state, an isolated state, probably in a quiet place, in a room, in a hall, it could be in a forest, somewhere that is devoid of noise. Now, as humans, because we are in an ever-changing, busy world, there must be a time when we require quietness. Now, these people describe this kind of state as probably meditation. That is why there is a connection between introspection and meditation, because most times during the process of meditation, you are also questioning. You are trying to monitor the kind of thoughts that the mind is giving to you. You don't take any judgment. You just look. It's like you're watching a TV and the mind is playing out different thoughts. But at that point, you are in a state of quietness and your surrounding is quiet, and you are trying to monitor what are those negative thoughts that the mind produces to you. And then you need to understand that there is a separation between who you are and what the mind produces to you. Not everything the mind produces is identical to who you are. This is very important. So if the mind tells you things that are negative, you will never succeed in this. You will never be able to make it. This thing that you're doing, you don't have sufficient knowledge. We must understand that our ability to understand that the mind is doing its job. We must not associate our life's purpose to the thoughts of our mind. And that is why that wisdom says, as a man thinketh, so he is. It means as a man yields to the thoughts of his heart continuously, it becomes that thoughts. In a sense, if you yield more to the negative thoughts in your mind, you will definitely produce negative behaviors, negative product. Definitely the things that are going to be coming out of you are negative. If you yield to the positive angle of the mind, you definitely will produce positivity out of you. Now, why is this very important? Because we have numerous people in the billions of the population of this earth living a life of frustration, a life of depression. Now, when you look at a state like this, there is a connection between introspection and creativity. And now in the next video, I'm going to be releasing that connection. But for now, we must understand that the mind is a software, like the computer system. It is a software that you don't see physically. It is actually there to perform an activity. The mind connects with the body because without the mind, the body cannot act. In a sense, the body relies on the thoughts of the mind to act. But where we get it wrong most of the time is we allow the thoughts of our mind to be identical to the body. And so when the body begins to understand that what the mind says is what I do, it begins to act. So most of us, what the mind tells us is what we do, is what we believe, is what we accept. But if you really look at it in the real world, if a man approaches you or somebody approaches you and speaks something negative to you, You would want to heal, you would want to retaliate, probably condemn it. But if the mind tells you something negative, or most times it tells us something negative, we tend to accept it too easily. Why is it so? It is because we have not understand the power of the mind at that point. We've allowed most of the thoughts that the mind gives to us to become truth, but they are not always true. In fact, you are not your mind. And that is why there is a book from Eckhart Tolle, which is The Power of Now. And he emphasized in that book so deeply that rather than allow the past experiences to affect who you are supposed to be, what you are supposed to do, the actions you are supposed to take, any action that will bring about positivity to your life, any action that will bring about the fulfillment of your purpose on earth, that will enable you to release your gifts. If you know that that action is important, do not allow the past experiences to affect it, because the mind will play back the past experiences. And if they are negative experiences, you should not yield to it. Now, this does not mean that you should neglect the negative thoughts that the mind gives to you. But instead, when they come, see it as though they are like passers-by. Monitor it. Feel the emotion, but do not give in to it. Once you give in to it, you make it identical to you. This is where we must understand that the power of the mind is not supposed to be identical to who we are. There must be a separation. And that questioning is daily. Whether it is Bill Gates, whether it is Mark Zuckerberg, whether it is Jeff Bezos, whether it is Aliko Dangote of Nigeria, whoever it is, all successful people in the earth are still in that state of mind. The mind continues to do what it needs to do. And that is why you can never get out of it. It continues. So therefore, if we understand this, it means that we should be able to grab the mind sometimes when it speaks. You see that when you want to do an act, or probably you want to do something, like I'm releasing a video now, or something that you want to do, but the mind tells you, oh, it never work, it will never work out, it will never go well. Now, if it is something that is important, you need to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Now, after the why question, the next question is, what should I do? You should not just end with introspection. Introspection is because you want to change a situation in your life. And so, since it has to do with something you want to change, probably an experience, you have suddenly realized that you are not being productive, probably in the area of your gifts, your potentials, or your talent. I remind you, a potential is something that has not yet been tapped. Now, if it means that you have not been so productive in the areas of your gift, or probably you've not gone far at the area you want to go, it means you want to study why that has been so. And you found out that the thoughts of your heart are mostly what is affecting you. Then it means you want to change it. You want to change the pattern. You want to change the way you yield to the mind every time. And so the why question should lead you to the what question. The what question then will be, what should I do? What do I need to do? Now, after intellectualizing, the next thing is action. Action is the next thing. Every process of introspection must end with action. You cannot just introspect for just introspection's sake. It is not just an intellectual exercise where you just think for thinking's sake. No. It is thinking for action's sake. It has to be connected. So in a sense, previously you would think and allow the mind to overcome. But now you think and defeat that negative thought by acting on that thing which you need to do. That is the best way. So in the next video, I'm going to be revealing the connection between introspection and creativity. How can introspection, which also involves meditation, how can it bring about creativity? How we can create something new from what we do. So guys, I hope you found value in this video and will also want to follow through for the next one I'll be releasing, and many other ones through different forms of my heart to inspire you more. Please like, subscribe and comment. And the description below I'll also be including some of the books that I've also mentioned here to also inspire you more. Thank you.